All right, we'll call the K-12 subcommittee to order. Members, make sure you're logged in and ready for the roll call. Clerk, please open up the board, and members, please log in. All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you for that. Members, any personal? We're set to begin. Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand that today is Chairman Hastings' birthday. So let's congratulate him on his birthday.
And for my birthday, I got eliminated from the sub-state tournament last night. And I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning to a calendar of 39 bills. So it's a great start so far. All right.
I have one other personal order as well. Tomorrow is Chairman White's birthday. So let's congratulate him on a birthday as well.
Well, let's see if we can send some of these tough bills his way so he can have these in his committee for his birthday. Representative Mayberry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, I have Katie French here from Austin P. again shadowing me today. Just want to welcome her today.
Welcome. All right, any others? All right, do have a full calendar. We're going to go through and do a little bit of housekeeping here and a few updates on some items. Item number 1 is actually House Bill 2187. We actually passed out last week. It was accidentally miscalendared, so that bill is already in full. Item number, what's the next one? Item number 4 was the same thing. House Bill 1735 passed out of here last week. It's already in full. Item number 5, House Bill 0154. We are rolling to the Hill. All right, what's the next? Item number 12, House Bill 2422 is also rolled to the Hill. And item, one second, let me get caught up here. I think I skipped one. Yes, and item number 8, without objection, is off notice. And I believe that gets us caught up. That brings us back to item number 2, House Bill 2532 by Leader Lamberth. Properly motion. Leader Lamberth, you are recognized on House Bill 2532. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do have an amendment coded 013975.
All right, that's what we have. Members, do I have a motion? Properly motion. Leader Lamberth, this does rewrite. It does not rewrite the bill. Do you like to explain it before we put it on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. It deletes section 3.
All right. Members, if there's no questions on the amendment, without objection, we'll be voting to adopt amendment 013975. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And last year, we passed the Education Freedom Scholarships. These were genuinely scholarships that came from the general fund. And I say that to be a little redundant there because it gets tossed around a lot, that this money comes from public schools. We've increased public school funding more than $4.4 billion over the last decade. And there is approximately $340 million plus new dollars in this year's proposed budget for public school education. That's a good thing. But we did not truly have universal school choice in this state until last year with the Education Freedom Scholarships. And we did that, again, without taking 1 red cent from our public schools, which is an important aspect of this program. This bill does a very simple thing. It increases to 40,000, the maximum number of potential Education Freedom Scholarships. And that is the only thing it does, Mr. Chairman. I stand ready for questions.
All right. Thank you for that explanation. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you know, could you give me a rough estimate of how many of the 20+ thousand students that received it in 25-26 were actually in private school?
Leader Lambert.
No, sir. Don't know and don't care. These are all Tennessee children that need an education, and their parents feel like the schools they're sending them to are the best for them to receive that education. So whether they're in a public school or a private school, I just want them in a great school that they're going to get a wonderful education and succeed later in life. So we don't keep up with that data.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But I guess my concern with that is evidently for 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, those parents have had the financial acumen to pay for the full tuition minus plus, but so in those situations, in my humble opinion, our dollars could be better spent as we're still woefully, we've given a lot of money, but we're still woefully underfunding our public schools. So you're right, those dollars aren't in the TISA formula, but they could be. And the fact that we're giving money to people that already have the money and the means, which brings me to my second question. I know a big reason that the original expansion program passed after years and years of trying was a hold harmless clause to our public schools to say, basically, we're not going to penalize those schools for losing the student count. Is there a hold harmless clause? And that really affects our rural schools and some of our urban schools, but really our rural schools. So is there any provision within this expansion to hold those students that will be leaving public schools going to private harmless?
Leader Lambert.
And I'm glad you mentioned the income aspect of this, because obviously half of these scholarships went to folks that were below a certain level of the poverty, a certain line of the poverty level. And when you really look at that, the vast majority of these folks were making less than $100,000 a year for a family of four. Now, you and I may disagree as to whether or not that's wealthy, but in most parts of this state, that's barely getting by for a family. I think the most applications came at about $30,000 to $40,000 annual income. Now, I don't know if you've received the emails, but I certainly have, from sheriff's deputies, from public school teachers that have a child that's in a special circumstance that took advantage of these scholarships, from individuals that, yes, many times were able to pay the tuition, but also were going into debt, that had medical debt or other types of debt that they weren't able to pay because they're just trying to work a second or even a third job to be able to put their kid in a great position. These are their tax dollars that are going back to them for their child's education. So I deeply respect your perspective on this, and I know we disagree as to whether or not the state should assist these children at all, but I believe that we should. But these are not just wealthy people. These are folks that are middle income folks to lower income folks that are struggling to get by. Now, can I tell you that none of these scholarships went to someone above that income level? No, I cannot. But I know that the vast majority of these went to hardworking Tennesseans that are struggling to just pay their bills. And they feel like, and I trust these parents to be able to make the best decision for their child's education, that their child should be able to take advantage of one of these scholarships. This expands it. And by the way, and I was pulling these numbers just before we came in, the best numbers that we have on these, well, I won't go into that. Let me just say this. To answer your question directly on the hold harmless, we created a floor. I mentioned earlier, we put $4.4 billion new dollars into K-12 public education over the last decade. We're never going back on that. Both my kids are on spring break right now. Otherwise, they'd be in a public school in Sumner County today. My little brother teaches 7th grade math and science. We are doing everything we can as a legislature, Republicans and Democrats alike, to raise the bar. And starting this year, every public school teacher will make $50,000 a year start out pay. These are all things that we are doing while at the same time providing some school's choice options for children that need that. But we're never going to go below where we are right now. So if a school were to lose children and lose money due to disenrollment, when I say lose children, those children left for whatever reason, Education Freedom Scholarship, moved to a different district, moved out of state, whatever. If due to disenrollment, there were less children in that school, they would not receive less money.
All right, one more follow-up, Mr. Representative McKenzie, and I've got a couple others that are on the list. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of that financial information, I would love to get that more transparent. But the numbers that I have are $173,000 makes you eligible for the $10,000. But the additional $20,000, the $5,000 with the automatic escalator, plus the $15,000 that you're proposing here, have no income. there's no income level associated with that. So if it is that firefighter, that teacher, that policeman, that cafeteria worker, why won't we make those scholarships available for them at a heavier rate than we do? As you said, I've gotten emails that said I'm a CEO of a company and I applied for the Education Freedom Scholarship because I got that feedback from someone in my district as well, because they can. And so while these programs are marginally successful, I don't think we really know. This is the first year that we've had this program and we're already doubling it just because people applied for it. And with that number of applications, they're going to automatically get another 5,000 based on the previous bill. And all you're saying is the school system going to get the same that they got last year, but these vouchers are going up every year because the cost of living is going to go up every year. So this, in my opinion, is not the time to expand a voucher program that's not proven and we don't have the data on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, priority one goes to the children that already received scholarships. So that's your priority one group. That's the 20,000 that's already out there. Priority two is those that are up to 100% or under 100% of the federal poverty line. So for instance, a family of two, that's $37,814. So you're talking about a single mom with a child. That's the income level you're talking about here. That's in that priority two. Okay. Priority three is up to 300% of poverty level, which again, for that same household size of two, that same single mom, that's 113,442. That's the priority two. And then we get all the way down into the last priority that you're talking about, which is the smallest group of individuals, because the vast majority of these scholarships are going to go to the priority one, the folks that already got the scholarship this year, and then the priority two up to 100% of poverty level, and then priority three up to 300% of poverty level. And so there is a hierarchy there that is already built into the legislation.
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this legislation. It's been mentioned a couple of times that folks have received emails regarding the Freedom Scholarship. I've received emails, also received phone calls, but I've also had face-to-face conversations with individuals. Let me just tell you real quickly about two. Last Thursday, there were a group of parents that were here with students from a school, a private school, where many of the students are receiving the Education Freedom Scholarship. And just before I was getting ready to leave, a mother caught me and she told me very quickly her story. Her daughter was able to receive the Freedom Scholarship, and she said that she otherwise could not afford to send her daughter to the school that she felt was the best fit for her daughter. She said, but her son, because of some paperwork issues, did not receive the scholarship last year. She told me very quickly that the school worked with them so that both of the kids could attend the school. And I think sometimes there's some criticism about perhaps schools not working with students that have lesser means, but that's just not the case. I've known of stories year after year and really for decades of schools that have worked with individuals. And this scholarship is exactly what it's called. It's a scholarship. It allows students to attend a school that is the best fit for their son or daughter. And then let me tell you about a dad. This was face-to-face within the past 24 hours. And a dad who had shared with me that his daughter was able to attend on the scholarship below in that priority category, did not making very much money. And once again, another child, a son who was unable to receive the scholarship due to just some paperwork type issues. And they're hoping to get that rectified this coming year. They scraped together the money so that their son could attend as well. So I'm very thankful for this expansion of the Education Freedom Scholarship. We know that there are over 56,000 who have applied for it. And those circumstances of those 56,000 are varied circumstances. There are varied reasons why people choose a private school for their child. And many of them, and I've talked to many of them, this is the best option for them, but the scholarship makes the difference between their child going to the school that they have chosen that is best for that child and not. And so thank you so much for bringing this legislation. I fully support it. And I hope that we're able to continue to expand this 40,000. In my opinion, I'll be voting for it, but just doesn't go far enough. We'll end up turning folks away again who really look at this as a lifeline as it relates to their children. And we need to make sure that children are able to go to the school that best fits their needs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Watt.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. Lita Lambert, I'm glad to know, I didn't know your younger brother taught 7th grade science. That was when I started my career. I would love to go back and teach 7th grade science. Again, my favorite years of teaching. I love 7th graders. The first thing is, I just want to point out, I've had many, many conversations with parents back home in Shelby County, and it's a lot of middle-class families that are benefiting from this. Those who have wanted to put their kids in the choice that's best for them, and this is very, very, very helpful. Another thing I just want to keep the committee focused on, we had the debate last year on the pros and cons of EFS. What's before us right now is whether or not we just want to expand the program, the numbers only, and that's all that's before us in this bill. So thank you, Lita Lambert.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman.
Lita Lambert.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I mean, just as we're talking about this, I always like to keep this in perspective. And thanks, I'll pass that along to my little brother. I'll admit, as a new, he's only a few years in now, science teacher in 7th grade. He's still learning the trade and doing a great job of it. And he's an awesome teacher. But it is, my kids are a little beyond that now. They're in high school, but 7th graders are something else some days. So he works long hours and works hard, which is why, again, I want to maintain, we have 956,119 kids in public school right now. 956,119. There's 78,343 in private schools and about 28,947 at home school. The bulk of what we do down here is to support those teachers like what you used to do and what my little brother's doing. And I'm sure there's teachers here today, and I deeply appreciate their work. Just because we're talking about having potentially 40,000 scholarships, again, 956,119 kids in public school, we should never take our eye off the ball. That's where the bulk of the funds in this state will go, which is almost $9.5 billion this year in the proposed budget. This program, even if we expand it, the total expansion is about $155 million. So the entire program, if we had 40,000 scholarships, would be about $310 million. Again, $9.5 billion for our public schools, about $310 million for this program, this scholarship program. That's just good to keep in perspective because, look, this is an important program and it helps some families. But the bulk of our kids are going to be in public school every single day, and we need to make them the best schools in the nation.
All right, thank you for that. Members, no other questions. We are set to vote on item number 2, House Bill 2532. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board, and members, please cast your vote. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 3 noes.
All right, and with that, the bill passes on to full education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, that brings us to item number 3 on our calendar, House Bill 2533. This will be by Chairman Watt. Properly motioned. Chairman Watt, you are recognized on House Bill 2533. And I do think that you have, just the one that has a couple of amendments. You do have a couple of amendments on this that do not rewrite the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And I believe what's the first amendment that needs to go on? 15322.
Same as. Okay.
All right, and it does not rewrite the bill. Would you like to explain this amendment before we adopt it or vote to adopt it?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was just conferring with legal. There was an amendment 13860. It does the same thing. It does not rewrite the bill, but it deletes certain language, like deletes LEA wherever it appears and replaces it with LEA or a public charter school.
Okay. All right.
Motion on the amendment?
Properly motioned, members without objection will be voting to adopt amendment 15322. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. And do you have one more amendment that needs to go on?
Is it 14968?
That is correct. Hold on, is it
Not correct.
149?
That's great.
All right, so 14968, is that what you have? All right, and this does not rewrite the bill. Do you care to explain this amendment before we
Right.
vote?
This also does not rewrite the bill. Section 34 changes from a may to a shall in reference to the department's responsibility to assist the commission by providing recommendations. And so that's the explanation.
All right, members, you've heard, properly motion. Members, you've heard the explanation without objection. We're set to vote on adopting amendment 14968. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized on House Bill 2533. Chairman White.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. And also, we do have the department here. This has 71 sections to it. It's really more of a, I would call it an omnibus cleanup bill, and it strives to do just that by restructuring and changing statute to improve clarity and make operations easier. And we just went over the two amendments and we explained those. There's also changes included in this bill. It increases spending flexibility for funds appropriated and distributed to LEAs and public charter schools for summer programming. As many of you know, during the years of the pandemic, we had the federal dollars come down, the ESSER dollars. We had third grade retention, and so we put in place summer schools and also tutoring programs. Now that the federal funding has gone away, we're also looking at flexibility. This allows, we know that tutoring is very, very effective in fourth grade and possibly fifth. We move on. And our districts are looking for those funds. So it gives them flexibility for spending the summer school dollars for tutoring if they so see fit. Another item it does is strengthens the relationship between the department and its administratively attached boards and commissions by clarifying their roles and responsibilities. It cleans up outdated references to local boards of education where the use of an LEA is more appropriate, as I just explained in the amendments. It clarifies the definition of full-time for purpose of paid parental leave and specifying that reimbursement for paid parental leave should be filed within the fiscal year in which it is taken. Two more items in there specifying that the virtual school enrollment cap currently is in statute is a cap for all virtual school enrollments in the LEA, not just a single virtual school. And then there's language in there about virtual schools. Back in 2013, when the virtual school language is passed, it says that if a public school is on the priority list for two consecutive 3-year terms, they may be closed. Here 13 years later, we do have some failing virtual schools, and it hasn't taken effect. So the language goes from a may to a shall in this language. And that's the highlights of the bill. And I'd say I do have the department here if we have details. Like I said, there's 71 sections, but most of it's just an omnibus cleanup bill that the department has brought before us.
All right, members, I had someone down for a question. Representative Mayberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, Mr. Chairman, I just kind of curious. I know we have another bill coming up that deals with closures for virtual schools as well, and I'm kind of just curious about the difference between the two.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you. And you are correct. Actually, I got before me, we actually have 5 bills floating through the House and the Senate, which have conflicting language with what's in here. I know the Senate passed out one from Education Committee the other day. So at this point in time, we're just going, where we are in this part of legislative session. We're in the process of working all the differences out. So those are moving, this is moving. And so, but this is complete omnibus bill for the department that we're putting forward. But those issues we're going to be working out in the days and weeks to come.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Representative Reeves?
Yeah, thank you. And just kind of on the same topic with virtual schools, is there any indication why those schools have not been closed with a may versus a shall? I'm interested in that because I know some of these virtual schools serve a very transient student population. I had somebody in my office this morning telling me that 40% of their kids turn over every year, and in one school, and another school was 23%. And so just want to try to get a read on that if you
Yeah.
have one.
And we can bring up the department if you want detail. I would say whenever we pass legislation that says may then shall, no one really wants to enforce it. Who wants to take the hit? And so that's why we're changing the language that you have to have shall. If you put may in there, that's permissive, and it usually never gets done. And that's what happened in this case.
All right.
One
Yeah,
follow-up.
yeah, Representative Reeves?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one follow-up. It says 2 consecutive cycles. Can you talk about what a cycle entails?
Yeah, a cycle, and if DOE comes up and they can correct me if I'm wrong, a cycle is 3 years. So if you're on the priority list, I think in the original bill, which is in the bottom percentage, and you're on there for 3 years, that's one cycle, and then there's another cycle. This bill gives two 3-year cycles, which is what it originally, but it was a may, not a shall.
Thank you.
All right, members, Chairman Slater, we're going to go out of session probably to bring up some of the guests, but if you want to ask now, or do you want to save it for the department?
I can say it.
Okay. All right. We did have 6 different individuals that had put down to be able to testify today. I know that not all of these maybe want to, speak and do their full 3 minutes, but I do think we do have a couple that had requested that did want to speak. So, and forgive me if I get any of these names, if I mispronounce these. Emily Cornute from the department, Hannah Hall from the Department of Education, Robin Kopp, Jonathan Criswell from the department as well, Cheryl Tatum from Stride, and Christian Tiagi, I believe, was down. So members, without objection, we will go out of session. And if any of those that were down to testify would like to come up and join us at the table, feel free to come on up right now. And if nobody wants to come up, that would be fine too, I guess. But feel free to come on up and have a seat at the table right here, and we'll turn your mics on. And then whether you want to use your 3 minutes or you want to just answer questions. And do we have anybody from the department here? Emily, you can go ahead and come up there. All right, and we'll just start to my far right and bring the microphones down. They are lit up there. Bring the microphones down for you, and then state your name and who you represent, and you do have 3 minutes, and that'll be a hard 3 minutes. We'll have to cut that off per our rules, and then we'll go from right to left there. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Kristen Tiagi, and I'm the Executive Director of Parents for School Options. We're a national advocacy organization that advocates for policies that expand educational opportunities and ensure parents have a voice in decisions affecting their children's education. First, I want to acknowledge that we appreciate the thoughtful work that has gone into this legislation. Compared to House Bill 20, committee will consider later this morning, HB 2533 represents a more measured and equitable approach to accountability for virtual schools. In particular, it recognizes that meaningful academic improvement takes time and requires a partnership between schools and families. Decisions about closing a school should never be taken lightly. The closure of a school impacts the future of every child enrolled in that program. For families who rely on full-time virtual schools, the consequences can be especially significant. Our organization works with hundreds of Tennessee families, many of whom are seated behind me today, and many more are standing in the hallways and weren't able to come in and fill the seats. Parents whose children struggled in traditional brick and mortar settings. These include students experiencing severe bullying, serious medical challenges, mental health needs, or learning differences that just require flexibility in how they learn. For these families, virtual school is not just a convenience. It's the only option that has finally worked for their child. Virtual schools serve unique student populations and operate differently from traditional schools. Because of this, accountability measures must be applied thoughtfully. For example, relying solely on TVOS growth scores as a trigger for closure is particularly challenging for virtual schools. Unlike traditional schools, virtual students must often travel to unfamiliar testing sites and complete long in-person exams in an environment very different from how they typically learn day to day. These factors can affect testing performance in ways that do not fully reflect a student's performance in the classroom. It's also important to note that no other public schools in Tennessee face closures based solely on TVOS performance. Singling out virtual schools in this way creates an uneven accountability framework. HB 2533 moves in a more constructive direction by allowing additional time for improvement and creating a more balanced approach to accountability. At the end of the day, this conversation is not simply about policy change or hypothetical accountability frameworks. It's about real families and children who rely on these schools every day. Thank you for your time and for your continued commitment to supporting educational opportunities for Tennessee families.
Thank you. You can go ahead now.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Cheryl Tatum, and I serve as Senior Director of Academic Policy and Research at Stride. I've worked in both virtual and traditional education for more than 25 years and have studied accountability systems across more than 30 states. We agree that accountability matters. Every public school serving Tennessee students should be held to the same accountability standards. Tennessee has built an accountability system that provides both strong oversight and a clear improvement process. Under that system, the state's most serious intervention status, priority school CSI designation, is based primarily on achievement levels and is applied over multiple identification cycles to give schools time to improve with structured support through the department. This bill aligns the closure provisions with virtual schools with the same accountability framework that applies to charter schools. Under that approach, closure would occur after 2 consecutive priority identification cycles, providing a consistent improvement timeline across school types, and does not single out TVOS, which is different from any other school. Aligning these policies strengthens accountability by ensuring that similar public schools operate under the same standards and timelines. It also provides clarity for families, schools, and districts about how the accountability system works. Most importantly, this approach maintains strong accountability while ensuring that closure decisions occur within the same structured framework that Tennessee applies to every other public school. Accountability should be strong, but it should also be consistent across school types. This bill moves Tennessee's policy in that direction. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you to both of you for coming today and taking the time to speak with us. Members, any questions for our 2 guests here that have joined us? All right. Oh, Representative McKenzie? And we'll go to the department next, Representative McKenzie.
Okay.
Just
a quick one for them, and either of you all can answer it. And I guess my question/concern is when you open up these schools, especially the statewide ones, you know what type of child you're going to get, right? You know they're not going to be all the situations that you all laid out in terms of being a non-traditional learner. You're going to end up with a higher socioeconomic. You're going to end up with the kids that sometimes struggle, not all, but some of them struggle. And you all been open a long time, and I did have a good conversation with Dr. Childers from Union County on yesterday. But my question, and I've asked all the folks to come to the office, is why haven't we done anything? 10 years as a failing school, 10 years as a failing school is unacceptable. Whatever, and by, you talk about the TVOS levels. The TVOS 1 mean they made no gain in your environment or diminished in your environment. And you can throw out, I mean, and I'm not bashing you, but that's a statement. That's a statement. I think a fact that has been tried and true in the state. So here we are. And I do like where we, I'll talk to the department later. I do think the playing fields need to be equal, but focusing on your playing field, how can we be happy with continuing on with these schools that for a lot of the kids, and a lot of the kids that look like me and came from my background as far as, the economics go, aren't advancing in your program? This was supposed to be a positive option for our children. And so my question to you is, and please don't take a long time, but 10 years failing, what's going to happen differently? And can you acknowledge that we haven't done the right things by kids over this 10 plus years? Thank you.
Ms. Tiagi or Ms. Tatum?
And I understand the academic concern. I think that it's important to recognize that TVOS level 1 is not priority school status. Those are two separate measures. So the school you're talking about, TMBA, has never been identified as priority school CSI designation. And so that is in the bottom 5%. And so when you say a failing school, right now the state identifies and applies its most strenuous supports to priority CSI designation. They don't apply those supports to TVOS level 1. That's that measure, as you talked about, growth that's relative to similar students with other test scores. And as you mentioned, right, school with students coming in, about 60% of students coming in with, prior challenges, learning disruptions that are, mental health needs, anxiety, being bullied, that can disrupt a learning trajectory, right? And so it does take time sometimes to stabilize the student first and then help them to re-engage before you can accelerate learning. But with that, we take improvement seriously, right? We definitely know. And as you mentioned with Dr. Childress, a lot of things that they've been putting into place, right? So specifically, they've been increasing live instructional time, expanding that small group support for all students across the spectrum, and adding instructional coaches, which they saw was a proven method to help increase scores. And so they have seen in some of the TVOS scores some improvement there. So like in the highest need students, a level 3, they have level 3 in several ELA subgroups, a level 4 for EL math students. And so I think when you boil it down to one single metric, that's what makes it challenging. And that's why just basing closure decisions on a single TVOS level is not applied to any other public school, which the key issues that we're focusing on is that it should be consistent across all schools, which the priority status is not something that is a concern for TNBA.
All right. Thank you. Representative Bolso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Ms. Tiagi. Thank you for being here. Ms. Tiagi, SCORE has shared with members of the committee some data that is alarming in terms of the performance of many of these virtual scores. And so my first question is, are you aware of that data, and do you consider it to be reliable?
I mean, data is data, and sure, there is. I mean, we talked about the test scores and things. Sure, are not the top in the state, but I think it's also the population of students being served, as Cheryl mentioned, are really put in a lot of unique situations and are coming into these schools. I mean, I've seen statistics where some of these kids are 2-3 years behind. And so I think the question needs to also be, what's happening in the schools that they're coming from? What's driving these families to choose an online learning option for their kids? And I think, as we're looking at accountability, it does need to be level across the playing field, because they're coming from places that are clearly failing them. They don't just pop up into an online school as a successful, student with straight A's and the top test scores and then come into the school and then all of a sudden be failing. They're coming from somewhere else and they are making strides year over year. And I think that's the important metric is when these kids are in these online schools for several years, you do see growth. You do see improvements if you look at individual student performance.
Representative Bolson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one follow-up, which will be two parts. One, Ms. Tiagi, are you yourself currently satisfied with the level of achievement at the Tennessee virtual schools with which you're familiar? And second, if not, what would you do to try to improve achievement at the schools?
So I think it's kind of a tough question to answer because each school is different. Talking to the families that are here today, I mean, they're here because they're happy with their child's school. They want to see their kids continue in this school. Some of these families drove all the way from Memphis and met us at here at the building at like 8 a.m. So these people are waking up at the crack of dawn before the sunshine to come here today to show you how important it is to keep their child at school. So I think that speaks volumes to keeping these schools in open.
Thank you. I don't think we have any other questions. So y'all are welcome to go back to your seats. Thank y'all. And we'll go to the department and just make sure you state your name and who you represent for the record. And then we'll open it up for any questions unless that you have any statements you would like to make to open up. So we'll start from right to left here.
Anna Hall, Legislative Liaison at the Department of Education.
Robin Kopp, Assistant Commissioner, School Turnaround, Department of Education.
Emily Cornute, Director of Legislative Affairs, Department of Education.
All right. Representative Mayberry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask the same question as Chairman White. Tell them the difference between this bill and House Bill 2420.
Sure, more than happy to. So it's my understanding that the language in both of those bills will end up matching nearly identically. The biggest difference is the closure mechanism. Our language mirrors charter revocation language. So it's 2 consecutive cycles on the priority list, and then the school closes. The LEA is required to shut it down. And then it's my understanding that in Chairman White's bill, it is cycle on the priority list, or if you have been at a TVOS level 1 for 3 consecutive years. So that would put these schools closing. It would be a different subset of schools that would close, that would be subject to closure. And then the timeline would be faster under Chairman White's bill.
All right. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And couple of questions. The first, with the achievement district schools, which I would say probably took a similar population or somewhat similar, who knows? Could you compare those schools' performance over the same time period, that 8 to 10 years that it's been open to these statewide virtual schools? Have they outperformed the virtual schools, or have the achievement school districts outperformed?
Wow, I don't have all the data in front of me, but I can tell you if you look at the schools in the ASD, over the last 5 years, the number of schools have gone from 14 down to 2. So right now, there are only 2 schools operating in the ASD. So if you look at those 2 schools, there's similar success rates in some of the schools. TVOS is definitely about the same, level 1, and the school report card is about the same.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a second question to whomever. To my knowledge, I guess there's and I'm looking at both these bills, because as Chairman said, they're both kind of running through our committee, so we got to compare and contrast. So the 120, roughly 120 schools that are brick and mortar under departments, authority, and other ones, have we closed any brick and mortar schools down during that same decade timeframe?
So you're talking about the priority
No,
schools?
no, all schools. Just the 100, statewide, there's 120 schools that compare to Stride and these Pearson and these other groups. So have we closed any of those schools down? Because this bill changes on virtual a may to a shall. So my question is, it's always a shall, and this aligns with with what we're doing in our public schools and charters. Is that shall, have we exercised the shall? Let me say that. Say it that way.
And I apologize, Representative McKenzie. I just want to make sure that we're understanding your question. Are you asking if we have closed any of these virtual schools, or are you asking if we've closed any brick and mortar schools at all in the last?
Representative
Yes,
McKenzie?
yes,
Okay.
but yes.
I'll refer to Robin Cobb to answer that.
The answer to that is not to my knowledge. We have transferred some schools from the Achievement School District back to Shelby County and back to back to Nashville for operation under that district. But as far as closure, not to my knowledge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Reeves?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask the question I already asked. There is a may, and we're changing that to a shall. And, the department obviously has an interest in having the best school options available to students. Why have we not closed these already if you're coming and saying we need a shall? You already have the ability. Why not?
Okay. I hope that you all will allow me a little bit of liberty here. I would like to go down memory lane, so to speak. So the Virtual Schools Act was passed in 2011. The first schools really became eligible for closure in 2013, 2014. The department back in 2014 did notify a school that they had made the decision to close that school. That led to litigation and a court decision in the summer of 2015 that allowed that school to stay open. Then we had some testing irregularities for the 2015-2016 school year. So we were unable to come up with priority data and really be able to check against that closure criteria that was outlined in the law. Excuse me. So that led to further delays in our ability to close the schools based on the data that we had available and what was allowable under law. Then 2019, 2020, we had the COVID pandemic. And by the time we had sort of recovered from that, the Virtual Schools Act was actually set to sunset in 2023. That would have resulted in all virtual schools closing. So if you can, see the situation there. However, that sunset provision was then deleted in 2023, and since then, the department has really tried to focus on, increasing accountability. We changed some things with the enrollment caps and clarified some things last year in law on these schools, trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak. And then this year, we now have automatic closure in our cleanup bill to really try to address this issue.
All right. Representative Reeves?
Yeah, thank you for that history. Let me go a different direction. If a school closes, if a virtual school closes, how easy or hard is it to have a student transfer to another school? Are there limitations on that? I assume less so than a brick and mortar school, but I'll let you answer.
Truthfully, I think it would depend on the choice that the family makes, right? Let's say that it is a statewide school that closes. You might have a student that is in a school district that has a host of choice options available. That student might choose to apply for one of our, other choice options, and they might go that route. So if you're asking that question, it might be a little bit cumbersome, right? There's an application process, there's a window, et cetera. If we're talking about them enrolling in a traditional traditional brick and mortar public school. They're able to do that at any time, so they could sign up and register with that school. And then there's of course the other option. These students can enroll at another statewide virtual school. Each school sort of has their own enrollment criteria and their own enrollment process. So how cumbersome that would really depend on that particular virtual school that the family has chosen. But there are a host of options out there, and some of them are fairly straightforward.
Members, any other questions for our guest? Chairman Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just one question while we're out of session, and then it'll be a related question, if I could, when we come back into session for the sponsor. It was mentioned earlier by a member that there are about 5 bills that may overlap or conflict in some way with this legislation. If this passes, is that the way that you see it too? I think we focused on one of the pieces of legislation that there may be some differences, but are there 5 that the department sees?
Thank you, Chairman Slater, for that question. Yes, we have identified those pieces of legislation, and I think we're working on resolving out all those conflicts, and we're committed to resolving out all those conflicts. We don't want our bill to be conflicting with another bill that's out there. So that's something that's certainly on our mind, and we're committed to doing that. If you all pass this on to full committee, we're committed to making sure we resolve those conflicts as they all the other pieces of legislation work through the process as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Members, don't see any other questions. So without objection, we will go back into session. All right. And we'll go back to Chairman Slater for a question for Chairman White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman White, you had mentioned earlier those 5 bills, and in the department sees that is the same. And you had mentioned that we would be able to get these in a proper posture if those 5 bills pass out of subcommittee. Just for clarity's sake, will we end up taking this bill up perhaps later in the calendar in full education?
Chairman Watt.
The answer to the question would be yes. As I mentioned, I've got them right here, these 5 bills. And as was mentioned by DOE, we have 104 bills moving through right now this week in education. So we're trying to line things up, and these are the conversations that we are having. So yeah, that's one thing that I would be open to, of course, that we would, between now and say full committee, we get some answers on these. But these are coming fast right now, so we're dealing with them one at a time.
Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative McKenzie, did you have a question for the sponsor?
I did. And thank you, Mr. Chair. So to the sponsor, I guess 2 of those 5, the 2 biggies you're kind of associated with, and as you know, done a whole lot with education over the years. My question is, this particular bill that's before us now, it will level the playing field in terms of there'll be no difference in closure of a virtual school as opposed to closure of a brick and mortar school within the LEA. Is that correct?
Chairman Watt.
As I understand it, yes, it puts it on the same playing field as the charter school legislation. I'm getting a head shake from that. Correct.
All right.
Okay. And so my last question, just to be crystal clear. So there's already in code, shame on me for not looking it up, a shall associated with the charter schools and the brick and the LEAs, the public schools. And this piece of legislation says now the department shall, like it does with the LEA schools and the public charter schools. Is that correct?
Chairman Watt.
Correct. In this one, right here, yeah, it says, and for public charter schools, the language is an authorizer, which is either the LEA or the Charter Commission, excluding the authorizer of an opportunity public charter school, shall revoke a public charter school agreement. So the language lines up with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, with no other questions down, we are set to vote on House Bill 2533. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board. Members, please cast your vote. Would any member like to change their vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 0 noes, 1 present not voting.
All right, with that, and House Bill 2533 moves on to full education. Members, we've had a guest come. I'm hoping that it will be a quick one because it's one of my, but we are going to take one out of order. We're going to go down to House Bill, without objection, we'll go to item number 37, House Bill 2485, and I'll pass the gavel down to Chairman Watt.
Okay, members, we're on House Bill 2485 by Chairman Haston. You have a motion and a second. Do you have any amendments on this bill?
No.
So it's a clean bill. So you have a motion and a second. You may go ahead and explain the bill.
All right, thank you, members. I'll be brief. Currently, we use mostly SNAP and TANF enrollment to identify students as economically disadvantaged for the purposes of TISA funding. The problem is we're missing a lot of kids who should qualify but don't actually participate in SNAP and TANF. Many of them, however, do participate in Medicaid, which originally was factored in to the TISA formula as being considered eligible for economically disadvantaged. This bill modifies the definition of economically disadvantaged for the purposes of TISA funding weights and school accountability by requiring the Department of Education to again use Medicaid data to identify these students who qualify for TISA funding. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. And we do have a guest that had come in to speak on this.
Sure, members, you have any questions of the chairman? If not, we do have the one that you mentioned that's been here twice, and we're going to recognize Manny Moore from the Cobb County Board of Education. Any objection to going out of session? Seeing okay, we're out of session. Manny Moore, if you will come and have a seat, and we'll hold you to the three minutes also. And if you state your name for the record, you may begin.
Hey, I'm Manny Moore, Director of Schools in Cobb County.
You may
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I come to you today in support of a reliable and predictable and equitable revenue stream for economically disadvantaged students in the TISA formula. In the first year of TISA 23-24 fiscal year, we were funded for 1,706.26 economically disadvantaged students. When we got our projections for the 25 fiscal year, that number had dropped to 1,361.78 students, which is a loss of 344.48 students in 1 year. We're grateful, obviously, to everyone involved for the hold harmless provisions that we've received the past 2 funding years, and also the one proposed by the governor for fiscal year 27. Without those hold harmless provisions, our system will stand to lose $536,324 as of 2 weeks ago when we got our February projections for the fiscal year 27. That's a pretty big loss for our rural distressed district of just under 4,000 students now. And looking at numbers from the Tennessee Mills Accounting and Claiming TMAC, at the end of February, we had 673 students that were classified as Medicaid free, but not listed as a J code, which are the students that we are funded for economically disadvantaged students. So there seems to be some form of economic disadvantage for some of those people, those students. I appreciate again the increased attention that the Department of Education, the administration, and the General Assembly continues to show this matter, and we just hope for some form of a predictable revenue stream moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Very much appreciate it. First of all, how are things in Cobb County? Y'all are totally recovered since the storm a number of years ago?
We are we're not quite recovered. As far as the school system was concerned, we didn't have any damaged buildings and so on, but it did a lot of damage to our downtown, and there's still a lot of decisions to be made and moving forward in regards to our courthouse and so on, both our city of Newport and Cocke County. So we're moving forward, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, you have a beautiful county. Members, anyone want to ask Mr. Moore a question? I see Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming to Nashville. I know it's never easy when you got a school district system to support, but thank you for coming for this important issue. I'll challenge you to keep an eye on 27 numbers, because I don't think this whole harmless clause is going to extend to students that are leaving or that are coming in. I don't think you're going to get those money. So I just challenge you to keep an eye on those numbers, because every dollar counts in counties like Cocke and Jefferson. So my question is, does this, I like the bill, so let me be clear. Does this solve the problem in Cocke County and getting your numbers back up to that 1,700? Will this measure, when you're counting the weights, will this measure by allowing the Medicaid numbers, will that fix the problem, or would you still be operating at a deficit and we might need to do something else to make sure that all your students are counted?
Mr. Moore?
Yes, Representative McKenzie, that would get us back to as far as economically disadvantaged students, that would get us back to where we were, not better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, anybody else have a question while we're out of session for Mr. Moore? Seeing none, thank you for making the trip and for multiple times. We appreciate it very much. Without objection, we're back in session. We're now back on House Bill 2485 by Chairman Haston. Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Boso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, Chairman Haston, has to do with the fiscal note. I see that the projected expenditure, if this were to pass, is more than $83 million. And obviously, there's already some unfairness in the way that TISA dollars are distributed to LEAs across the state. And the area that I represent is perhaps the leading LEA in terms of being disadvantaged by the allocation of TISA funding. And so my specific question is, where do you see this $83 million coming from to fund this legislation if it passes? And if it does pass, will it disadvantage other LEAs?
Chairman Haston?
I don't think it's going to be any disadvantage, and that's always the question about any bill up here, is where the funding's coming from. I hope that we look at it for the merits that it is right now as we're working through the funding portion of it. But the key thing is to remember in this is that these schools are not really looking for additional funding. They're just looking for the funding that they were promised at the very beginning that was already there, that is leaving. And so this is not really anything to look at as something in addition to. It's just more of a make whole bill, in my opinion.
Follow up, Representative Slater, Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two quick questions for the sponsor. It appears that there is a sunset on this because it's repealed on July 1st, 2030. Am I reading this correctly?
We might need to go to legal to make sure that we get I think it's for section 2. So let's go to legal if Chairman White's okay with that.
Session. We're out of session. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Office of Legal Services. That is correct, that section 2 of the bill is repealed on July 1, 2030. But the remaining portions of the bill would stay in effect unless the General Assembly acted otherwise.
Question of the legal.
Yes, another question. This may be most appropriate for legal. I also see that this does require the department to request the federal department for a waiver. The term waiver is not used here, but it looks like an ESSA waiver. Am I reading that correctly? So that waiver would have to be granted in order for this to take place or not?
You recognize legal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, the Section 3 of the bill requires Department of Education to submit a request to USDOE to amend the state's ESSA plan for purposes of changing the definition of economically disadvantaged subgroup for purposes of reporting.
Chairman Slater?
So it wouldn't have any effect on this bill at all, just on a definition when it comes to our ESSA report.
Legal?
It would not have anything to do with the funding portions of the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Slater. While we're out of session with legal, any other questions to legal? Seeing none, we're back in session, back on the bill. Further questions of the sponsor, House Bill 2485. I don't see any more questions. Any objection to the question being called? No objection. So, Clerk, would you please put the vote on the board? Clerk, would you take the vote?
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. House Bill 2485 moves out to full committee.
All right, members, that number 6 on the calendar, House Bill 65 by Chairman Hawk. I don't see him. Is he? Yes. Summon Chairman Hawk. We'll roll him one spot. House Bill 1794 by Chairman Crawford. We will roll him to the Hill. All right. That brings us back to item number 6. Oh. All right. We're moving on. Item number 9 by Representative Carringer. All right. Crawford. Now we rolled him to the Hill. All right. Without objection, members, we're going to bring item number 7 up, House Bill 1794 by Chairman Crawford.
Motion. Second.
Properly motion. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized on House Bill 1794.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. This is a real simple bill. Basically, all we're doing is making it illegal to be able to have the teachers and local education systems be able to do an investment pool to build their money up quicker. And it's completely permissive. I mean, it's up to them if they want to participate. So we've got 35 states that's already doing this, and we kind of use that as a guideline. Didn't reinvent the wheel. And 5, I mean, all of the states that are touching the state of Tennessee already do this. I talked with TOS, TA, and several teachers and everything. They're excited about this. So I'll be glad to stand to answer any questions if there's any. And I ask for a positive vote.
Chairman, thank you, Chairman Crawford, for that. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Watt?
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Crawford, also, if you could help me with, I've got a note here. This allows for investment pools, correct?
Yes, sir.
How does this affect our county commissions?
Chairman Crawford?
Well, I don't think it would really affect them at all. I mean, this is a permissive thing that they can start. It's the comptroller does the audits and looks at all that stuff. And it's the same process we've got set up for the General Assembly through the state treasurer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sponsor, you mentioned that it's permissive, and then in answer to the previous question, that had to do with county commissions. So does the county commission, do they have to authorize or vote on this pool at all? Is this something that the school board is able to do without taking it to the county commission?
It will be. It will be if we pass this bill. It will give the local LEAs the option to be able to do it, and they would not have to get approval. That's the way I understand the bill.
Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Chairman. In looking at this bill, it struck me that this is mostly for temporarily held funds so that they don't have to invest overnight for an interest rate or something like that.
Sure.
Is that basically right?
Yes,
Chairman
sir.
Crawford.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And the yield's a little better at this time, so.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Chair. So the previous question was kind of my concern is how these monies are divvied out. Because right now, there's a pretty tight line between county commission and school board and how those funds. So to be clear, county commission wouldn't, these funds are above and beyond. As they realize the funds, they can spend them however they want within their LEA, build buildings, small things, they put roofs on. Is that how we're looking at? So county commission has no jurisdiction on these funds.
Chairman Crawford.
I am almost 100% positive, but I will, hang on just a second. It shouldn't affect them in any way. The LEA would have the option to spend how they want to. And it's their money that they're investing. So the yield on that, they could do what schools do.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Mayberry.
Thank you, Chairman Carpenter. The way I understand it, of course, I'm a school board member, but the way I understand it is the funds have already been given from the county commission to the school board. And say we're building a new school and we have those funds sitting there. So instead of just them sitting there waiting to be spent over time, we can now build the money up with the interest of that. We could quite frankly have a large amount of money that we could then reinvest into that school or into other projects. Is that correct?
That is
Chairman
100% correct.
All right. Members, any other questions for our sponsor? All right, seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. All right, any member wish to change their vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, with that, passes on to full education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is Chairman Hawk rejoin us? All right, so we're going to roll item number 6, House Bill 2365 to. All right, that brings us to item number 9 by Representative Carringer, House Bill 640. We are rolling it to the Hill. That brings us to item number 10, House Bill 2000 by Chairman Sapicki. Properly motioned. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized on House Bill 2000, and I don't think I see any amendments. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you are recognized.
Very simple. House Bill 2000 authorizes private post-secondary institutions in the state of Tennessee, including one that is religiously affiliated, to establish a public charter school. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions for our sponsor? All right, Representative Keem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just point of clarity, in regards to it being a religious school, is there a necessity, a requirement that as a religious school that this takes, you follow where I'm trying to get to?
Yes, sir, I get your question.
Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. What this does is it allows a religious private four-year institution in the state of Tennessee to become a charter school. That charter school you would have to do all the laws associated with being a charter school in Tennessee, and I think including the word non-sectarian. Non-sectarian.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's we talked about bills floating, and so there's other bills coming that may allow for religious schools. I think there's one out there. If that happens, is it your intent that this bill would even though there's a Baptist school or Mormon school, that the curriculum will still be non-sectarian? That's your intention for this bill?
Chair speaking.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, members, any other questions? Seeing none, I think we are set to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. Would any member like to change their vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 0 noes, 1 present not voting.
All right, with that, House Bill 2000 moves on to full education.
Thanks, Chair.
All right, that brings us to item number 11, who has been patiently waiting back there. Representative Sparks, House Bill 2256. Properly motioned. Chairman Sparks, you were recognized on House Bill 2256.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, this bill, House Bill 2256, makes 2 clarifications to Tennessee charter school renewal process involving the Tennessee Public Charter School Commission. First, it corrects the technical error in the state law that mistakenly applied a reconciliation process with local school districts to charter renewal appeals. That reconciliation period only applies to new charter application, not renewal. So this fixed a confusion in the appeals process. Second, the bill allows the commission to set renewal terms between 5 and 10 years for the charter schools it authorizes. This gives the commission flexibility to provide longer terms for high-performing schools and shorter terms for high-performing schools and shorter terms for schools that need closer oversight, aligning with Tennessee's more closely with national charter school best practices. And Chairman, I do have some folks that want to speak for and against this bill. If we could allow them the opportunity, I think they're on your list.
All right. All right. They did request, but both requested just to speak if needed. And so we're going to try to keep it rolling a little bit
Yes,
since
sir,
we're up against the clock a little bit today
Yes, sir.
already. So members, any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsor. So this would add the option of a 5-year renewal to the Charter Commission. Currently, it's at 10. This would add 5 years. Why 5 years? Can you explain why it would be that 5 years is necessary?
Well, I think that's where we're having, I'm getting a lot of calls, just to be honest with you, on this bill. And I think that's the crux of the matter is the 5 year. I think the other side feels like they're having a difficult time maybe forecasting and getting permanent financing for charter schools. That's one reason I wanted y'all to hear both sides of this issue. Y'all are more attuned to education matters than I am. So in all fairness, that's why I want to have both parties speak on this piece of legislation.
Well, members, I don't mind. I mean, if I'm at the will of the committee, if y'all want to go out of session and give them at least a minute each to be able to be heard, I'm fine with that. We'll cut the time down a little bit if y'all are okay with that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Let's do that. Members, without objection, we go out of session and let's bring up Hayden Pendergrass and I believe it's Eve Carney that were down and give both sides a minute to 2 minutes here. We'll keep it pretty tight on this, but to give each side an opportunity to speak. We'll start to my right. So when you get seated, just bring the microphone down and state your name and where you're from or who you represent, and then you have a couple of minutes, and then we'll move over to the gentleman.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dr. Eve Carney. I'm the Chief Policy Growth and Performance Officer with Noble Education Initiative. I wish to use my time today to do 2 things. First, I want to thank this committee and the General Assembly more broadly for the support of public school choice and what it means to our students and families. You have passed key educational policies and budgets that increased TISA funding and included facilities for charter schools. This body and Governor Lee have maintained high standards and accountability for all schools, creating the conditions that makes Tennessee an education-forward state. As a native Tennessean and an educator, I am grateful. Second, I want to voice my opposition to House Bill 2256, a bill that does not align with the priorities this body and administration have established. In short, this bill stands to limit parent choice, discourages private investment in Tennessee charter schools, and represents a policy step in the wrong direction. negatively impacting Tennessee's charter ecosystem. This bill would also increase the administrative burden on schools, time better spent meeting the needs of our students. The filing of this bill caught everyone by surprise. There was no engagement with stakeholders or with charter schools that will be directly impacted, and no mention of this bill to their traditional partner organizations, zero. And while this is the testimony of one person, the opposition to this bill is broad. Since this bill was filed, we have engaged with several organizations that you all know and engage with regularly, none of whom support this bill. We ask for the opportunity for meaningful stakeholder engagement over the next year with Charter Commission members in advance of this body considering a policy that will impact our ability to attract and maintain and retain high-quality charter schools for the state of Tennessee. Thank you for your time and continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Pendergrass. State your name for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Haston and members of the committee. My name is Hayden Pendergrass. I'm Director of External Affairs for the Charter School Commission. Part of the reason we brought this bill is just building on the governor's legislation that we passed last year, which allowed renewal flexibility for renewals that came to the commission on appeal. So while, the opposition has mentioned that this bill caught them by surprise, this is simply a follow-on to legislation that was passed last year that simply broadens the commission's flexibility. Tennessee is an outlier nationally in not having any sort of flexibility in our charter terms. Right now, essentially in all situations, it's either 10 years or nothing for charter schools. Where all of the commission is simply asking for is some additional flexibility on renewal. Initial terms will still remain 10 years. Everyone will still have that initial 10-year term. All we are simply asking for is some additional flexibility once that school is up for renewal. That is not uncommon across the country. Georgia's maximum renewal length is 5 years. Indiana has a range between 1 and 15 years. Nevada has a range between 3 and 10 years. That's typically how it is across the country, and that is all the commission is requesting from you today.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions for our guests? All right, thank y'all both, and thank you for both staying inside about that minute and a half range. That was perfect. All right, without objection, we will go back in session. And we are back on the bill, House Bill 2256. Chairman Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And a couple of statements were made during testimony. One of them from the commission had to do with broadening flexibility. I would state that this actually will limit flexibility in a very key point when it comes to charter schools, and that is financing. Financing is a part of every charter school. If this 5-year renewal is in place, when a charter school goes to the bank to try to secure financing, they're going to look very unfavorably to that 5 years. They're going to want more guarantee that this entity is going to be in existence further. So I think that it actually limits flexibility instead of increasing flexibility. The other thing that I would mention is that there is a bill that will come before us, which is on this calendar, but it'll come later, which really will broaden flexibility. There will be that bill, if it passes, that bill will give an automatic 10-year renewal when it comes to high-quality charters. The other thing that that it will do, which I think is very important, is that it will require the authorizer, whether it's the commission or whether it's an LEA, to communicate with the charter on an annual basis if that charter school is identified as struggling in any way, beginning with year number 5. Therefore, there'll be annual communication with the charter school and the authorizer. And so instead of this reform, which I think will instead of broadening, will restrict flexibility, I think there's a better way to do this. I understand and I appreciate the work of the commission. And I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't think it broadens flexibility. And so for that reason, I cannot support this legislation.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I sat and looked at this bill, as I heard the department, these other the previous speaker brought up financing. Financing has not been an issue in these other states as it relates to renewal of these charters. So I don't think our financial structure is any different than these other states that have limited terms. In my mind, it's like getting a colonoscopy. I know, here I go. If there's indicators during the procedure that there may be some issues, then you're going to get put on a 5-year term. If there's nothing there, you'll get the full 10 years. You don't have to come back for 10 years. So likewise, if a charter school is doing well, they're getting a 10-year finance, they're getting a 10-year pass. And so if they're doing well at that time, they'll get another 10-year pass. But this gives the Charter Commission some flexibility to manage those schools. That there's indicators, there's things that in this case, using my scenario, that the doctor saw that says, yeah, let's pause. We're not pumping the brake. We're not saying you're not doing a good job. But my concern is with these charter schools, you could have a 10-year. So if it's a preponderance, okay, they're doing well at the 60% level. They have nothing further to do, but say stop, or you get 10 additional years. And the 60% acceptable to us. So again, this isn't prohibiting the charter. I mean, the Charter Commission from giving 10-year terms. Nothing in this bill does that. They're just giving them some flexibility. And I do not think they will automatically start giving 5-year terms as it relates to this bill. So thank you for bringing the bill.
All right, thank you. Chairman Sparks.
Yeah, I was just going to call on Chairman White if he had a better analogy than McKenzie on this piece of legislation, if he wanted to chime in. Sir.
Chairman White.
Please.
No, I won't compete with that.
Okay. Representative Sparks.
Yeah, as a lawmaker, you want to do the right thing and you want to make everybody happy. And I'm probably the wrong place to do this to try to make both parties happy. With this, I'd like to just roll this bill for some more discussion to see if I can get these groups to the table, if that's okay, sir, and have more discussion.
All right, we will roll House Bill 2256 without objection to the heel of the final calendar. With that, members, we only have 3 minutes left, and we need to have a chance to clear the room before the next the next committee comes in. We will we'll continue taking up final calendar next week. With that, we stand adjourned.